Good afternoon and welcome to our College Sports Communicators webinar. Today's session, we will explore everything that goes into hosting a successful championship and the details that go in the planning process, the behind the scenes, the media relations, and everything that's going to ensure to have a positive experience for everybody involved. My name is Jared Kilgore. I'm an assistant SID at the University of the Cumberlands, where I've had the pleasure to help out with many conference and national NAI opening round championships. I'm excited to serve as today's moderator, presented by the Professional Development and Education Committee. Thank you for everyone who is attending here today and who submitted questions beforehand during registration. If you're watching live and have any questions, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom here, and we would love to answer those for you. I am joined today by a wonderful group of college sports communicators who are ready to do their best to share their background and perspective with all their experience at hosting national championships. I know we got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to turn it over to our panel here, and as they briefly share their background and some of their experience with these championships. We'll go ahead and start with Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia Alexander. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director, Sports Information Director, and Senior Woman Leader at Lewis Clark State College in Idaho. We are members of the NAI and the Cascade Conference, and we host a variety of Cascade Conference events throughout the year, NAI opening in first and second rounds. And then we have been the home of the Avista NAI World Series since 2000. So a lot of baseball postseason over here.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. We'll head over to Katie.
Yeah, Katie Gonzalez. I am an associate AD for communications and marketing at NCAA Division III Illinois Wesleyan University, where we have been fortunate within the last 10 months to host the Division III Softball National Championship, and 6 months later, the Division III Women's Volleyball National Championship. In addition to those, we've hosted quite a few NCAA regionals and sectionals, as well as countless College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin championships.
Perfect, Katie. And finally, Tim.
Hey guys, Tim Hyduk, Associate AD for Communications at Point Loma Nazarene University, Division II school. Ever since I started out in this industry, started out at Westmont College at the NAI level, literally first week on the job, hosted a baseball NAI opening round. So kind of got thrown straight into the fire there. But Point Loma, we've hosted 10 NCAA West regionals. It's my fourth year now, and 6 Pac West Conference championships. We're getting ready to host basketball here pretty soon. So this is a good kind of lead up to that. So yeah, excited to be here with you all.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. We'll just hop right into some topics. We're going to kick things off talking about just the foundation and the people, some of the behind the scenes processes that is going to keep your championship running smoothly, especially behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, it's all about the preparation and driving to the campus this morning in San Diego. It's raining here, which we don't have to deal with too often, but reminded me of we hosted the conference women's soccer championship in the fall, and of course, the day of the championship game, we're dealing with rain, with 30 mile per hour gust of winds, and I mean, it was literally an all hands on deck. Our athletic director squeegeeing the field, grounds crew, everyone's there, and I mean, it just remind like the preparation that goes behind it, where I mean, not only is everyone involved, but like you have no idea what's gonna come, like what technology errors you're gonna run into that day, what's going on with the weather, and to be as prepared as you can absolutely be. One thing we do with the regionals is, it's like as soon as the brackets released, I've got an email already drafted. I just have to add the emails of the teams that are in the tournament. Gives them all the links that, for the live stream, the stats, the ticketing. Here's a Google Drive folder we're uploading all the photos to. Just gives them like a one-stop shop for like everything they're going to absolutely need. And also then ask them for whatever we're going to need from them, if that's their rosters, their stats, any broadcasting notes, anything like that. Just that way, we're not scrambling, asking for those things later on, and can kind of get on the front end of that stuff and then worry about the nitty gritty stuff, that's going to come up last minute, the day of, or, in those closing moments leading up to the championship.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. Just the communications back and forth from the hosting SID to all of the opposing SIDs coming into your championships. Obviously, that there's a lot of information to be shared from both parties. So getting that as early, like you said, with the draft, I think that's very important. What are some must-have elements in the setup of the tournament, and how do you keep all those details updated going into that and then throughout the tournament?
I think that one, something when we talked about planning for this was the Tournament Central page and how informative that is for opposing SIDs, fans, media, anyone who might be traveling to your facility for the first time or in a new capacity. And really thinking about the information that you're putting on there and when you're starting to build that out. A lot of that's pretty standardized. So you don't have to like hurry up and wait. It's kind of like get it ready instead of in the hurry up and wait phase where you're like, everything's going to come at me a million miles a minute once the selections are announced. That's something I think you can do a lot of front load work with. And the other thing, just to pick up on what Tim was saying, I think as you kind of go through it more and more, you get the things, you get your rhythm, you kind of know, but start documenting that so that like when you host something in a year, you're like, okay, these are this kind of my checklist, and you're not like trying to scramble figuring out what you're forgetting or anything like that. I probably waited too long to build that checklist of like, okay, here's the one stop of like everything I need to know and get ready. I wish I would have done it earlier, and so I think having that helps with building that Tournament Central setup, knowing where to find it, how to copy it, and make those tweaks.
Yeah, that's great, Katie. Thank you. Obviously, a lot of tournaments comes a lot of media, whether that is the SIDs, photographers, things like that, and obviously those people need a workspace during the game and after the game. So, kind of go over how you manage that space and ensure that everybody has everything they need to do to cover their teams to the best of their abilities.
I think the most important thing to remember is that we're all trying to get our job done, whether it's another SID or the media coming in. So you always want to make sure you have space at the table for that visiting SID. I know we always have a spot next to their bench, or we do have separate media tables, like where I do stats, where we'll place those visiting SIDs, and then we kind of tier it out. So the first people we're worried about is visiting SIDs, and then we're worried about the local media, whether it's finding space at the table or having a table just off to the side where they're still in the moment able to cover and do their job. And also having not overflow workspace, but workspace kind of back set aside for SIDs who their team may have just played, but they still have to get their work done. They need access to Wi-Fi, to a printer. So having space set aside for them to still work, but not necessarily be not in the way, but we have seats available for whoever's currently playing.
And yeah, to add on to that, Alicia, I mean, part of that communication, the lead up, to opposing SIDs is making sure that, you know who's going to be there, right? And so it's you can plan for all the games and make sure that they do have that space. I mean, especially when it comes to the local media, we'll set up a table opposite of the scorers table and have that kind of reserved strictly for media. But then, that way, you kind of know who's coming and you can make sure that if they want a stat sheet at halftime or at the end of the game, you can get that to them. They know where the post-game press conferences are, all that sort of thing. Kind of up front, get them everything that they need. Because yeah, once the game starts or is finishing, sometimes you're kind of scrambling. But yeah, make sure you get them that information ahead of time, just to kind of make that process as seamless as possible.
Yeah, that's great. And we've been talking about how we can help SIDs that are on site. Well, obviously, we all know some people can't always travel with their teams, whether they have multiple teams they can cover, just any of those travel things. So, how do you go about coordinating not only photography, but just getting them, like you said, the stats that they might need? How do you do that to SIDs or media that might need that information but aren't there on site?
I think that goes back to a lot of what we've shared. It's just like that front end communication. Tim talked about a Google Drive. We're a Google Drive school, so we're always constantly. I'm asking for them to put stuff in a Google Drive, but I'm also sharing it within that same folder. I'm also a person who doesn't love to send like 800 different emails throughout the day, so I try and confine things to one. So everything's kind of like a daily update, maybe, instead of, hey, here's an update about this photographer situation, and then here's an update about parking that might have changed or meals or whatever, trying to confine that into one thing. And with the photography for us, it's, pairing them with local people, giving them a list of people that we would recommend hiring, giving them the contact info for who we're going to have on site. But really thinking and setting those things in motion ahead of time, because I think at the end of the day, it's for a lot of people, like it's really cool that we get to work a championship, right? Like you're there on the final day when someone's achieving the highest point of their athletic career. And I think keeping that in mind and making sure that you're able to help your friends, your SIDs on the other side of it is super important.
I think something to piggyback off that a little bit too is I know we'll talk about neutrality in a little bit, but remembering that you are the host of this tournament and just because it may not be your team hitting that buzzer beater, it's still someone's team hitting that buzzer beater. So making sure you can have that content, those photos, the videos. We had an instance where we got upset in our home court on a buzzer beater, but my photographer knew keep clicking, get those pictures for the winning team. And I was really proud of her as a student photographer. So, I commended her afterwards. I know that was hard because that was your friend who just lost, but you did what you needed to do to provide for the other school as a host.
I think to follow up on that too, if your team's not in it, your students are still going to be really excited to work at championship, right? Like they get a shirt that might say a championship event, they get to be on the field or on the court or whatever. We kind of kept our home game parameters in place. And so, yeah, it wasn't, sideline video highlights for our team because our team wasn't playing. But again, that was going in the Google Drive after every game to all the opposing SIDs. So if there was a milestone kill or if there was a record home run or something of that sort, they were able to take those and use those. And I think that is just another way of helping them out when they're not there.
Yeah, and I liked what Katie had said earlier about the email chain and kind of keep it in one centralized location. One thing, at least at the Division II level, the West region, Jeff Evans at Western Washington does a great job of keeping a directory, all the contact info for all the SIDs at the different West regional schools. So obviously, I mean, texting is a more immediate form of communication that able to just like, hey, photos are uploading or hey, game just end, just that quick, like, so they're not just sitting there refreshing that Google Drive waiting for it to happen, and you can kind of keep them updated as it's going so they're not just kind of wondering when it's going to show up, and you can kind of give them a heads up in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that open line of communication between all SIDs, all media is vital in running a successful championship. We'll pivot, and Alicia talked about it a little bit, but we're honored to run these championships. But at the end of the day, we are hosting for the NCAA, a conference, the NAIA, and we are going to try to be as neutral as possible, so that way everybody involved, students, student athletes, coaches, spectators, that they're going to feel that environment and feel like it is for them. What would just begin? How do you set the tone, first off, internally with your own department? And Alicia, you did mention this a little bit, just that they're not only representing their team, but they're representing an entire division or just everyone that comes there.
So we actually have a rule within our staff for the World Series specifically that once teams are on the ground and they're here, we don't wear LC State gear. We're wearing our World Series gear or NAIA gear. We don't do that for conference and for opening round necessarily. We'll still wear our LC State gear, but once the World Series hits, we're the World Series staff. We're not the LC State staff. And I think the communities recognize that. We're really lucky to be in a community that knows that this is a baseball town. So when teams are here for the World Series, it's Jared, you've been lucky enough to see it in person. It really transforms. So our community knows that this is the big show, which is really neat for us. But we've just really made it a point to be neutral. We're here to support every team that comes in here, like we did with that basketball game where we didn't win, but we're still giving that team their moment. And at the end of the season, every year, there's going to be a dog pile on Harris Field, whether or not it's the Warriors, but we know the stands are going to be packed, so we want to give the student athletes the best experience and our fans the best experience when it comes to watching those moments.
Yeah, and Alicia, that's great. And yes, I've had the honor to be out there multiple times. It is amazing to see just the town rally behind it. And you mentioned you've hosted it now for like 25 years in a row. So obviously the community is going to build naturally. But can you talk a little bit about how maybe you've built that relationship with people in the community for the World Series?
So we every year solicit volunteers, and our community does a great job of taking ownership and being a volunteer, whether it's being a program seller, working concessions. So we've really worked on building that fan base since the 80s. We've been lucky enough to host a little bit prior to 2000, and we're a small town. So where are people going to go when they want to watch sports? When I first moved here, I said, what do you do when you want to watch baseball? We go watch the Warriors. We go watch the World Series. So the buy-in has been there pretty much from the start, and our student athletes are ingrained in the community. Our department is ingrained in the community. We're always involved. We're going to like Chamber of Commerce events, soliciting volunteers, saying, "Hey, we want you to help with the World Series. We want you guys in the stands of the World Series." We market it throughout the year, so we're able to start pushing it, during volleyball season, saying, "Hey, tickets go on sale in November." And just keeping it at the top of mind for everybody throughout the year because we know that it's something that we will host. The opening round and World Series we know is going to be here every year, so we're able to utilize that throughout the year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really important to, like you said, especially if you know well beforehand you're going to host it, like through the community, have them come to a couple of your home games, and then you'll tell them like this is a high level, but when we are hosting the national championship, this is going to be the best of the best, in the country at what regardless of division. So that's a really good point, Alicia. Katie, I know we talked before coming on. It's all about the student athlete experience and how to elevate that. I know you had at your volleyball. I think you said you had some cool ways that you all did maybe before the tournament started. Just go into how you're elevating that student athlete experience.
Yeah, I look at our panelists and think about our conversations and being at Division 2, NAI, and Division 3. We're all watching maybe on ESPN and things like that, the Division 1 championship, whether it's basketball or volleyball or whatever sport it might be. And you're seeing kind of that media day photo shoot experience that those student athletes are getting at that level. Whether it's in the commercials or the intro video, leading into a College World Series game or whatever it might be. And, a credit to our staff here, it was more of a like, well, why aren't we doing that? Like, let's try that. And so, we came up with a plan. We proposed it to the committee for softball back in May. And, we said we want to do it an hour before their practice. We're gonna do it on practice day. This is how we're going to make it work. They're going to get it. The student athletes are going to get it. The SIDs are going to get it. And then we're also going to use it on our video boards for the championship series. And so it was a multifaceted kind of use for everybody. And the student athletes absolutely loved it. So the committee was in agreement. We did that. We brought it back with women's volleyball this fall. And, it's always funny to see like the coaches that are really like, really business mode. And then all of a sudden you walk in and they're like getting tossed up by their team, like for a video or for a photo and stuff. And so we were able to do that. And I think it was just a way for them to look on the video board and instead of maybe just seeing a headshot they've seen all year, they saw a photo of them on this NCAA branded blue and gold national championship backdrop. And, parents are taking pictures and everything like that. I think it was a lot of work on our staff's part. And again, our students and everyone was really excited to be a part of that. But I think that made a huge impact on the student athlete experience. And then on the other side of that, going off of Alicia's comments, the community side, we brought in Special Olympians, and that kind of connected the student athletes and our community. So for softball, we had Special Olympians throw out first pitches, handing out awards, like those type of things, trying to get them to that. For women's volleyball, we had one of them sing the national anthem for the championship match. Those things and tapping into that great partnership that we've had with our athletic department not only gets them in the stands, but it really makes them feel a part of it in another way too. And I think that really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, Tim, I'll go to you. Just some things that we've heard a deal about how we're elevating the student athlete experience. Just talk about some things that you have done to kind of echo them. Just as many ideas as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, how we view, hosting these championships and obviously like our team will be a part of it. But, it's like whatever we do for our team, we're making sure we do for the other team. So if it's baseball and it's our walk-up songs or our scoreboard graphic that has the number and their headshot, we get all those headshots from the other schools and we make one for those other teams. And we have a great video scoreboard out at soccer, for example, and same thing, the starting lineup intro graphics that we'll still use for them, and just little things. Honestly, like the post game press conference, we print out the name placards for the entire roster, just to have those up, so you know who you're speaking to in the press conference, and it just looks a little more official in that way. And before the tournament, on practice day, setting aside time to interview the coach and a couple players and It gives just that tournament feel. And also I think what's huge in that regard is, and obviously, relying on the opposing SIDs to get broadcast notes just as far, obviously they're going to know their team the best, but just those 5-10 minutes just to connect with the opposing team to feed that information to your broadcasters. So, they have the most information possible and can talk about both teams equally because, obviously your broadcasters have probably been covering your team all year. So could, talk about a whole season's worth of stuff, but, having that opportunity to connect with those other teams and using that practice time to take advantage of that, just to elevate the whole experience. And obviously, I mean, it's become very popular now, but the whole bracket and sticker thing, when you advance, just such a great piece of content. The players love it. It's just such a priceless moment when they get to put that sticker on the bracket in advance. So yeah, I mean, just a few things, but just looking at those small ways that sometimes it doesn't even require that much, but those little things can go such a long way.
Yeah, that's great. And just a reminder, anyone watching, if you have any questions, we've had a couple come in. We'll answer those live. We can answer those. I know someone asked for a checklist. Katie said that she's going to send it over to them through email. So just if any questions that pop up through this, we'd love to answer, specific, kind of broad, whatever you all have. We obviously have a lot of experience on this panel. That we love to answer that. Before we move off this topic, obviously all departments have different budgets, different like accessibility to different things. Just one thing from each of you that you would really want someone running a championship to try, and you think that it's very doable almost regardless of kind of the situation you're working with.
I was looking around on my desk to see if I had one. But we started doing like custom bag tags for kids for the student athletes. And so kind of what we've talked about is like making it a next level experience. And I think part of that's also making it a next level experience for your student athletes. And so our student athletes, when we host a conference championship, we do it for all the teams. They get a conference tournament championship bag tag. Has their name, it has the year, it has the sport, where we're hosted, all of that. It's got like a black background. And then when we get to the NCAA regional, it might be a blue background. And then, a sectional might look different. A World Series would look different. Um, and I think just kind of elevating every step of the way. Tim talked about the bracket, and I love the bracket. The other thing that we added at the conference tournament level, because sometimes that is the biggest moment, right, for a team that maybe wins their first conference championship. I think we've talked a lot about the national level, and it's important to remember that not everyone's high is a little bit different, I think. And so with that, we started doing these like ticket punched poster board. So it's a foam board. We get circles that are just all the logos in our conference. So it's not like they really go bad unless someone goes through a rebrand. And we buy a few of them. We started doing it a few years ago. And our conference commissioner at the time was like, that's a great idea. We want to do it at all of our tournaments, regardless if Illinois Wesleyan's hosting or not. And so now, one, it's not coming out of our budget anymore. So that's fantastic, right? But two, every student athlete is kind of getting that experience when they're getting an AQ. It was a huge hit at women's golf because I feel like that's a sport that maybe doesn't always get the bracket sticker or that kind of experience. And I just think it's something really simple and really cost effective that makes a big difference for those kids.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to one thing, and we'd actually talked about, it, and you brought it up. We've been talking about being neutral and elevating, but a part of that elevating is for the host team's student athletes. Because I mean, obviously, if you're traveling somewhere, especially like a place like Lewiston, like any outside team going there is going to feel the big time. I mean, it's a big stadium, like the community's involved, but maybe like the LC State, the Warriors players are on that field every day for practice every day. So I think it's important to really elevate in those like a bag tag or anything, even the home teams or the host teams, student athletes, it's just as important for them to be elevated as well. But well, Alicia, you had your unmuting your mic, so just a tip for you. I just wanted to throw that in there because I really like that.
No, that's actually where that's the direction I was going to go is being able to at least elevate or change up what your facility looks like, whether it's through, a lot of times it's through signage. So whether it's conference signage, NCAA or NAI signage, we we have that bunting that we hang during the World Series, and we'll have our pennants that we hang with all the champion names. We go a little bit further, and we'll do state flags for every school that's there. So, when LC State's in it, we've got the Idaho flag. When Cumberlands is in it, we've got the Kentucky flag hanging. And we'll hang banners with their school's logo on it too. So just being able to step it up and dress up the place a little bit more, so it's different for our student athletes as well. If it's in the gym for basketball, we've got our NAI, Battle for the Red banner stickers. We've got signage to where they can feel like they're in a national tournament, they're in a conference tournament. It's not another home game, because that's something that we talked about earlier. It's not just another home game. It's a postseason, and giving it that neutral site feel as well, to where we're covering up some of the LC State branding, because it's not our tournament. We are just the site of it. So I think that elevates it for our athletes a little bit more too, even covering up some of the home stuff, because it has that postseason feel.
Yeah, and then I mean, just to piggyback on all that was said, I mean, Katie, you mentioned the bag tags. I mean, just I love the idea of just something tangible that you can hold on to. I mean, so when we make those name placards for the post-game press conferences, like, we give those to them. They can take them. It's got the if it's the conference championship logo, the regional logo, their name, their number, the school logo. They can just take that with them, and we have credentials for all the coaches, players, administrators. I mean, I know I've got like 1,000 of them seemingly from all the events that we've hosted, but just something that, yeah, just a little keepsake that they can hold on to, and obviously can be a challenge, and you need someone to be able to do it, but just, yeah, on that practice day, even just little pieces of, it's a mic'd up content. You ask a couple players a couple funnier questions, just kind of keeping up with the times, but just to make it an interactive experience, and something that they can look back on and remember forever.
Yeah, that's great. We'll go into some more nitty-gritty detail things. Obviously, there's so much that goes on. Um, we have here about third-party media. We talked about like that working space set up for them, but now like things like pronunciation guides, kind of stuff like that. How do you get that stuff for your PAs, your broadcasters, and just so everything like the nitty details?
I think media day or practice day is huge for that kind of thing. We do a separate media day for teams, the World Series, but during conference tournament and opening round, I go out there practice day and talk to players and coaches, because, sometimes coach can't say a kid's name right, and that's just the nature of the beast. But what I do is I take that information, I put it on a one sheet. That way I give it to our PA, I give it to our play-by-play, whoever may need it, the local TV, the news that come out, I give it to them so they get it correct. So gathering just the basic information and having it prepped on a one sheet. And I know Katie's got really good info on a one sheet for some other information, but I think just having a hard copy there in front of them eases their nerves a little bit too, when it comes to saying names that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, I'll go into the one sheeter. If you have any championship or high level questions, Doug Housechild at the University of Dayton is such a great resource. Dayton's been hosting the first four for forever, seemingly, and we've had the opportunity to go over there the last few years and help out. And one of the things I took from that experience ahead of us hosting the national championships was this one-page cheat sheet, basically for media. So it had Wi-Fi info, it had parking info, hospitality, where that was, maybe what times it was going to be available from a food standpoint. I think when you think about a sport like baseball, softball, track and field, like those really long days where you might be serving multiple meals, just having them know like lunch is going to be from this time to this time, dinner will be this time to this time. Contact info, interview policies. I think that's a great way to like remind and reinforce some policies and procedures that you have in place at your institution or at your site, and kind of work through that. And so I just think that's a great kind of resource that we ended up starting to put with their credentials. So we emailed it to them beforehand, but we also put it with them and they got that physical copy as well.
Yeah, I think that one sheet, I mean, that's genius. That's really good. All the information there, they can go back to it. Tim, you want to chime in?
Yeah, no, I think having a sheet that I mentioned, we'll set up a table opposite the scores table for a lot of the media to come, and just a small sheet that if it has your Wi-Fi password, it has like, all right, location of the post-game press conference, any URLs. I mean, and something our conference did I noticed it that in the fall at the cross country championship is on the credentials on the backside. It had QR codes that had the QR code that took you to the results. It took you to, if it's like the live stats, the stream, just that was just very accessible. As far as media comes, like they have it. It's like all the QR codes, all the links are right there. I just kind of a one place they can go and just very easily accessible. They don't have to go kind of search and try to find it. It's just very easy for them to access.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, these one sheets are really improving the media's access to a lot of information. But what are some other ways that the working environment for media has improved, whether that's through extra space, technology, or just open communication?
I think it's important if you're hosting in your local medias there to help tell, you're selling your team, but also the other teams that are involved. Our local paper does a really good job of previewing all the teams that come to Lewiston, but then also making sure that they know where to find you. But if the SID for those other teams is there too, where they can find you and introducing and building those connections as well. Because if Jared's in Lewiston, he's going to know his team a lot better than I'm going to know his team. So I'm going to connect him with our newspaper so he can give them the information that'll help promote his team to our fans here in Lewiston.
Yeah, that's great, Alicia. If someone hosting for the first time, what would be maybe a mistake or something that you might want to avoid when it comes to an outside media source? So whether that's your paper that might be a little biased, anything that you just like an outside media that maybe would not be the best coverage for a championship site.
I think for us, we have a really great local media base that covers us throughout the year, and has been covering us for a number of years. I mean, decades, right? And so they have their rhythm, they have their policies. Sometimes those are going to be different, right? As you advance and as things change and get further to the kind of that championship end line. So just communicating with them of like, hey, I know we're usually doing it this way, but we're going to have to do it this way. Maybe it's reminding them of the 10-minute cool down or reminding them that the press conference is going to be over here when it might be over here in a smaller setting. I think it just goes back to a lot of things. And, as athletic communicators, this might be shocking, but it all comes back to communication, right? And being upfront and honest and transparent with that stuff, but being ahead of it, not telling them right after the game when maybe they're used to being able to just talk to coach right after he jumps off the live stream interview, but instead saying, okay, here, this thing, or helping him connect with opposing SIDs as well.
Yeah, I think for us especially, being in San Diego, where you've got San Diego State, you got UCSD, USD, media coverage isn't guaranteed, and so we have to work for it, and I have to establish those relationships with the local media, and so I mean, obviously, you want to go out of your way to make the experience as easy as possible for the opposing teams, but I think especially for the media in those circumstances and make them want to come back and you provide them the space they need and kind of bend over backwards to make sure that they've got everything that they want and need and that they're going to want to come back in the future. Because I think it's not can't just like it's not guaranteed that they're going to want to come back. Like you have to almost, especially at the smaller school level, in some ways, convince them to come, and then once they come and have a great experience and realize the high level of the competition, of the atmosphere, then it can maybe get rid of some perceptions of lower level college athletics. But I think just bending over backwards, making it as easy as possible for them, getting them whatever they need, goes a really long way to establishing that relationship going forward.
Yeah, that's great. And just a question that popped into my mind. So, local media like that, something you would love to have come in cover, but also I feel like nowadays, even like students, I feel like everyone has a camera. Everyone's wanting to be on the baseline of a basketball, on the court side for volleyball. How do you go about giving those media passes out to, like you said, local media professionals or just kids that are trying to grow their own brand, whether it's through short Instagram clips, X, Twitter, all that kind of stuff?
For us, at least with basketball and like baseline space, right? You're only working with a fixed amount. You can't just have everyone down there. And so we've boxed it off and we've, had the schedule of who gets what box the first half on this side and who goes to this box in the second half and whatnot. But also prioritizing, right? Like we're gonna prioritize the team media and our local and national media that might be coming in for those things too. And then if it's not someone hired by a team, if it's the freelance student that's trying to build up their portfolio, we fit them in if we can, or we give them different parameters on where they can shoot from and things like that. But again, communicating with them and also communicating why, right? So that they don't feel disrespected or some type of way of saying, hey, you can't be on the baseline, but yeah, sure, you can come in. Instead saying, hey, we're getting a lot of people traveling for this event. It's really exciting. And right now, I can't guarantee you a baseline slot, but if one becomes available, like then we'll change it, but just keep kind of referring to the schedule. We post it on the side of the hoop, on the base of it, so it's there and they get it emailed and it's everywhere, it's in 7 different places. But I think that communication with it and just prioritizing the people that really need those areas.
Yeah, that's great. We had a question come in, and I think this is very interesting. It is, how can SIDs at participating schools, so not the host SID, but maybe if you're traveling with a team, what can they do on site and beforehand to make the championships run smoother? Because we've been kind of talking about like the point of view from hosting school. Well, if maybe you're not in the position to host, but you're going there, we talked about pronunciation guides, all that kind of stuff. Just reiterate what the assisting SIDs can do to help make the experience for the host school more smooth, goes more smooth.
Yeah, Blake,
I
I
think,
appreciate the question. Oh, so go ahead. Sorry, Tim.
sorry, Katie. As far as, the way I'll view it in a lot of ways is like I try to almost justify why my school's sending me. And so, you go out of your way to you touch base with the broadcaster, the PA announcer, make sure, kind of going out of your way to double check. I mean, obviously, I guess you hope that the host would have double checked pronunciations and all those sorts of things already, but just making sure you're going out of your way to do that. And also just, offering your help. I mean, so for example, when we're hosting the conference basketball tournament or the regional, that, there's 4 games in a day, right? And your team's only going to be there for one of them. Obviously, you want to be covering your team, when your team's playing, and maybe that next game you're covering right in the article. But those other games, like, hey, I'm here. What do you need from me? What can I do to help? Because we're always looking for extra assistance in that way. And so just being very proactive and seeking out those opportunities to make sure the information's correct. I mean, because ultimately that's how your school's being presented, but also from the perspective of, hey, if I was the one hosting, it would be great if other people were offering to help. So just and oftentimes it doesn't mean they're even gonna accept it, but just presenting that opportunity because you never know what needs might be needed.
I think adding on to that, some of that front end stuff, right? Like when we're reaching out with an initial communication of, hey, we need headshots or we need these things, making sure you get them in there, right? Like we're all on tight deadlines and it changes by sport. I think of softball, we've had sectionals wrap up or super regionals, sorry, wrap up on Saturday and teams were arriving on Monday. And so that's a really quick turnaround for us to get the bag tags done or some of that custom stuff that we want to do, um, whether it's video board and everything. And so helping kind of abide by some of those deadlines, if you will, that we kind of put in or the asks that we have, I think is really important. But on the flip side of that, just being really straightforward with what your needs are, right? Like I want to be a great host to anyone who comes to Illinois Wesleyan for whatever event it is. And if there's something you're going to need or that you anticipate or that comes up, like just kind of communicate that with us and we're happy to kind of help and help accommodate different things. I think the other side and something we ran into is when you're looking to hire media like photographers or videographers and you've never been to Bloomington, Illinois, you might not have a great amount of contacts. Instead of going for the first one that maybe emails you, maybe getting a reference check or something like that, right? And so that some of those tough situations where maybe you're not happy with the product that you get back or, kind of interpersonal things play a role. I think asking people who might know the people that are going to be there is super helpful, um, and helps just everyone be happier at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And another thing, we've been focusing on preparation, and just if you know that your team is gonna be, make it to the national tournament, having those like pronunciation guides ready on hand for, like Tim said, like they're gonna send out an email pretty soon to after it's announced, like having those ready to go, responding timely. And now they might not be doing the media guide or something for the next couple of days, but they will have the information that you given if you have it right away. So just making sure to have those rosters, pronunciation guides, maybe all that stuff ready to send out whenever it's asked of you would be a great thing. And but thank you, Blake, for that question. If we got a couple more minutes here, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to put them down in the Q&A. Um, before we close out here, though, and if we get any other questions, like I said, we can answer them. But just final thoughts or advice that you all would want to share. Tim, I guess we can start with you, and we'll just go down the list.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, the preparation. I think that just goes such a long way. We've been fortunate to host several, regionals, conference tournaments, and kind of the, if it ain't broke, don't fix it in terms of like the tournament central page, for example. Like oftentimes using the one I made last year as the guide for this year, and you just obviously replace the teams and the links and all that stuff. But if you don't need to spend an extra 2 hours like redesigning completely something new, if it worked before, obviously you want to keep enhancing things, but make sure you're able to spend the time on the things that you really need to spend time on. And so many things come up, it's the game ends, it's the bracket with the stickers, the post-game press conferences, resetting the live stats for the next game, get all those things that ahead of time, just having clearly defined responsibilities and just making sure that everyone knows, hey, like even if you're just in charge of the bracket and the sticker, like, all right, that's your job. Like you've got that, you're in charge of that. So it's not like, all right, there's three of us that could do it, but then we all think the other person's going to do it, and then ultimately nobody does it, and you miss that opportunity. So just making sure everyone's on the same page, knows exactly what they're doing going into it.
Yeah, that's great. Alicia, you want to chime in?
I just think it's important to remember why you're doing it in the first place. The days are long. World Series for us is essentially 2 weeks. But at the end of that time, there's a dog pile on the field. Someone's dreams are coming true. And take a moment to soak that in for yourself and know that you were a part of some of the best memories a student athlete's going to have. And yes, it's a lot, but we do it for a reason, and just keeps you going a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Katie?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we get to do this, right? We get to watch sports all day, and it's long days and whatnot, but it's fun, right? Like it's winning, it's losing, it's emotions, it's everything you love about sports. But I think Tim made a great point of just like the communication and organization piece. You're going to have a lot of people come out of the woodwork if you're hosting a national championship that want to help, right? Maybe it's being a host family, maybe it's putting the sticker and bringing the bracket out after a volleyball match. Maybe it's refilling hospitality. Making again, maybe I need to try and get a sponsorship deal with Google here, but making for us a Google sheet that everyone can have access to, and game day one, game by game, who's doing what and where everyone's going. I think the other part, and Tim touched on it too, is from an NCAA standpoint, we got sent so many different links to things and assets and things we can use. So it's twofold. One, use what they're giving you. Don't feel like you have to recreate the wheel. But two, don't overwhelm yourself thinking you have to use every single thing that is sent to you. Um, Still make it your own. Each institution, each site, each host is going to be different, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We get to put our little spins on it. Central Illinois is going to be a lot different than California, for some obvious reasons, probably. But I think just being comfortable with who you are and what your institution and what your office is all about, and again, focusing on that why, I think is huge.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I just want to say thank you so much to Tim, Alicia, Katie for sharing a lot of great advice. I mean, I've taken a lot of things out of this that I can use in the forward. I hope everyone watching has as well. Be sure that if you have any other questions, I'm sure you can find our emails on College Sports Communicators. Just please reach out to us. If it's specific, like really niche questions, anything, we love to help you as much as possible. When you sign off, there should be a short post webinar survey. We would love to fill that out, get some feedback, maybe on what you want to see from the future. We would love to do that. Again, you can visit collegesportscommunicators.com for updates on future webinars, a lot of membership news, and a bunch of just available resources to help you be the best communicator you can be. Thank you for being with us today. Hope you have a great day.